October 2009, Hassan, Karnataka. If you were one of the people walking through the bus stand in Hassan, you wouldn't have noticed anything wrong. You would have seen families saying goodbye, students rushing to college, and laborers heading to work. You also might have seen a 22-year-old woman named Anita. She stood out, but only if you looked closely. She had just left a lodge near the Hassan bus stop where she had spent the night with Sudhakar, a government official, a man of influence who had promised her a job, and even to marry her without taking any dowry. In those times, it was difficult for a woman in her position to get married to an influential man without giving away a significant sum as dowry. But she was very lucky to have found Sudhakar. They had even consummated their relationship an hour before. She was checking her phone, waiting. Sudhakar was older, 46 years to her 22. He wasn't rich, but he projected stability. He looked like a teacher, mild-mannered, soft-spoken, wearing a simple button-down shirt. He had promised Anita a new life. He had promised that today they would run away and get married. Sudhakar soon arrived at the spot Anita was waiting at and told her it was time to leave. He gave her a reassuring smile. He took her bags. He again complimented her sorry. And then he led her toward the edge of the platform, away from the prying eyes of the crowd, toward the public restrooms. He told her they had to leave immediately to catch a bus to a different district to register the marriage. But first, he stopped. He looked around, ensuring no one was listening, and lowered his voice to a whisper. He told her that he wanted to be with her, fully and completely. But he wasn't ready for children, not yet. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small, unassuming packet. Inside was a single white pill. "Take this," he said. "It's a contraceptive, but it's strong." He pointed to the restroom. "Go inside. Take it there. Wait a few minutes. If you feel sick, you'll know it is working. I'll be right here with your bags. I'll be waiting." Anita looked at the pill. She didn't want to get pregnant either. She trusted him. Why wouldn't she? He was going to be her husband. She walked into the restroom. The door clicked shut. As soon as the latch on the restroom door slid shut, Sudhakar's demeanor changed. The smile vanished. He didn't look anxious. He looked at his watch and started counting. After counting to 60 and making sure that there was no one else going into the washroom, he picked up her bag, heavy with the gold jewelry she had removed for safekeeping during travel, and he turned around. He walked away. He didn't run. He walked with the casual pace of a man who had done this before, and he vanished into the crowd. Inside, Anita swallowed the pill. The chemical reaction was almost instantaneous. It was a biological short circuit. The cyanide pill Sudhakar had given hit her stomach acid and turned into gas, flooding her bloodstream, making it impossible for her body to use oxygen. She felt a sudden, violent burning in her throat and tried to scream or to reach the door, but her muscles seized and she collapsed on the wet tiles, her heart hammering a frantic, final rhythm against her ribs. And just like that, amidst the noise of 1,000 travelers just a few feet away, Anita was gone. When the police found her, it was treated as a routine tragedy. Another young woman, overwhelmed by the pressures of modern India, taking her own life in a public place. It was a file destined for the bottom of a stack. Unnatural death, suspected suicide. But back at the station, something didn't sit right with the officers. It was the family's statement. They insisted she had left home wearing jewelry, a lot of it. But the body in the morgue was stripped clean. No gold, no money, just the sorry. Suicide victims don't usually fence their own jewelry before killing themselves in a bus station toilet. The police began to pull the thread. They requested the call detail records, the CDRS of Anita's mobile phone. They expected to find calls to family, maybe a boyfriend. What they found was a digital ghost. There were hundreds of calls to a single number in the weeks leading up to her death. Late-night conversations, long talks. But the day Anita died, that number went dark, switched off. The investigators, led by a sharp team in Mangalore, decided to cast a wider net. They weren't just looking at Hassan anymore. They started looking at unnatural deaths of women in public restrooms across the state of Karnataka over the last year. The results were chilling. A woman in Mysore, a woman in Madikeri, another in Bangalore, another in color. The details were identical. Young women, usually between 25 and 30, women from traditional backgrounds, found dead in bus stand restrooms. Causes of death initially ruled as cardiac arrest or suicide, and in every single case, the jewelry was missing. This was no longer a missing persons case. This was the work of a serial predator, and he was operating with a level of efficiency that was almost mechanical. The breakthrough came from technology. The killer was smart, but he wasn't perfect. He knew to switch off the SIM cards he used to groom his victims. He would buy a fake SIM, talk to a woman for months, kill her, and then snap the SIM card in half. But he made one critical error. He was cheap. He kept the handset. Every mobile phone has a unique fingerprint called an IMEI number. Even if you change the SIM card, the phone itself broadcasts its identity to the tower. The police began tracking the IMEI of the phone used to call Anitha. For weeks, silence. Then, a ping. A new SIM card had been inserted into the old phone. The signal originated from a distinct location, Bantwal, a quiet town near the coast. The police moved in with plainclothes officers. They tracked the signal to a specific individual. They were expecting a thug, maybe a gang member involved in organized robbery. Instead, they found Mohan Kumar. He was 47 years old. He was a primary school teacher. He taught physical education to children. He had a wife. He had 2 children of his own. He was a man who attended community functions, who graded papers, who blew a whistle on the playground. When they arrested him, he didn't fight. He didn't try to run. He looked at the officers with a strange, detached calm. In his pocket, they found a small stash of vials, and wrapped in paper, they found a powder. Cyanide. The interrogation of Mohan Kumar is a descent into the absolute void of human empathy. At first, he denied it, but when confronted with the call records, with the location data that placed him at the scene of Anitha's death, the facade cracked. He didn't just confess to Anitha, he started listing names, or rather, he started listing places. He didn't remember them as people, he remembered them as transactions. The one in Mysore, he would say, she had 40 grams of gold. The one in Madikeri, she was difficult, she only had 20 grams. The police realized they weren't dealing with a crime of passion, they were dealing with a business. He targeted women who were vulnerable. In the rigid social structure of India, women who remain unmarried into their late 20s or 30s often face immense societal pressure. They are made to feel like burdens. They are desperate for a way out. Mohan became that way out. He would scan marriage listings or simply loiter in bus stands, looking for women who seemed to be waiting. He would approach them. He had a script. He was a government official. He was looking for a wife, but he didn't care about caste or dowry. He just wanted her. To these women, he was a miracle. He would court them over the phone for weeks. He was patient. He listened to their problems. He built a fantasy world where the 2 of them would run away and live happily ever after. He would tell them to bring their jewelry because they wouldn't be returning home. He admitted to the police that the contraceptive pill ruse was his masterstroke. He knew that cyanide works within minutes, sometimes seconds, and that by sending them into a public toilet, he was buying himself time. When a body collapses in a locked stall, it takes time for people to notice. Maybe 20 minutes, maybe an hour. By the time someone breaks the door down, by the time the panic starts, by the time the police are called, Mohan is already on a bus, miles away, the gold tucked safely in his bag. He did this 20 times, 20 women, from 2003 to 2009. For 6 years, this man lived a double life that is almost impossible to reconcile. During the week, he was Mohan Sir, the teacher. He watched over children. He went home to his wife. He ate dinner with his family. He lived a life of mundane domesticity. On the weekends, he became Cyanide Mohan. He traveled to different districts, met women who were trembling with hope and excitement, and watched them walk to their deaths. He told the investigators that he obtained the cyanide from a jewelry shop, claiming he needed it to clean gold. It wasn't hard to get, but the most chilling detail wasn't the cyanide. Police traced the gold. Mohan hadn't hoarded it like a dragon. He had sold it, bit by bit, to pawnbrokers. And what did he do with the money? He renovated his house. He bought better clothes for his children. He paid for daily expenses. The blood of 20 women was used to pay for groceries and home repairs. He had monetized murder to subsidize a middle-class life. As the trial began, the scale of the horror gripped the nation. The courtrooms were packed. Families of the victims, parents who had spent years thinking their daughters had run away or committed suicide, finally had answers. But the answers offered no comfort. Mohan believed he could talk his way out of it, just like he had talked those women into the restrooms. But the evidence was overwhelming, and in December 2013, the gavel came down. Death penalty. Later, this was commuted to life imprisonment without remission. The courts decided that death was too easy. He needed to sit in a cell and rot. Mohan Kumar is currently in Hindalga Central Prison. He is an old man now, but the legacy of what he did hangs over the region like a fog. When we think of serial killers, we think of the outcasts, the loners, the people who look dangerous. But Mohan Kumar proves that the most dangerous monsters are the ones who look like us. He was a teacher, a figure of trust. He didn't hunt in the dark alleys. He hunted in the broad daylight. Anitha walked into that restroom believing she was 5 minutes away from a new life. The next time you are in a crowd, look around. Look at the faces. The teacher, the accountant, the quiet man reading a newspaper. We assume the person standing next to us is living in the same world we are, but sometimes they aren't. Sometimes they are simply waiting for the right moment, waiting for the right victim, waiting for you. If you enjoyed this story, if it creeped you out even a little, hit the like button and subscribe. It helps the channel more than you think. You can check out other stories about haunted places, real encounters, and Home Alone horrors with the links here.